Hi, everyone. This is Marilyn Bradford, and I would like to welcome you to my Left Turn podcast. What is your left turn? Writing a blog, parenting in a different way, letting go of the old because you are aware of something greater. Left turns are choices we can all make. It's about a willingness to step into the unknown in any area of your life, to trust yourself, to risk creating or trying something new. It's about letting your true uniqueness shine. The greatest people who have lived, artists, statesmen, writers, explorers, musicians, have all been people willing to turn left. What capacities do you have that you have not acknowledged? What would your life and the world be like if you were willing to turn left? Hi, everyone. Marilyn Bradford here, and welcome to another edition of the Left Turn podcast. I have with me today an amazing man who is all about bodies, among other things. This is Andrew Gardella, and Andrew is an access consciousness facilitator, doctor of chiropractic, and a body genius, which I know to be true. He runs the Body Mob for Access, offers classes, individual sessions, SC, all kinds of things to do with bodies. And he said, I worked with bodies in some capacity my whole life, and there's nothing I enjoy more than facilitating greater ease and possibilities for people with their bodies. So welcome, Andrew. I'm so glad you were able to make this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So this is the Left Turn podcast, and I would love to know what some of the biggest left turns in your life have been. What did they create? Did you have resistance? Just whatever comes up for you.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's the biggest, but definitely a big one was going to chiropractic school. I think that was a slight one. I don't think, and then the biggest one was for me was after I had graduated chiropractic school. I went and worked in a chiropractic office. I had also I graduated chiropractic school in December of 2012, and August of 2012 is when I received my Access Consciousness Certified Facilitator license. It was when,
Wow.
so so I had been playing with the tools of access and kind of facilitating some smaller classes, during chiropractic school. It's kind of how I paid my way to become a certified facilitator. And that's what I really enjoyed doing. I liked facilitating the classes and especially anything with bodies and using the access consciousness tools. But I went and worked in an office because I didn't really know. One, I was just getting out of school. I had, student loans. I needed a job, and it was going to be my first real job. I just worked summer jobs and stuff before that because I was just constantly in school. So I went and worked in a chiropractic office with, my chiropractor, the one I, went to since I was a teenager. And I was working in the office and I just, slowly but surely knew like after a month and a half, I was like, oh, I am not happy. Looking at these four white walls every day and just all filling out all the forms and everything and really I wasn't happy was because I wanted to facilitate more and I couldn't really do that while being in an office, especially as an associate. Like I'm the low man on the totem pole. I can't take off. I'm working like Saturdays. All these things, like I need to be there so he doesn't have to be there. That's the point of having an associate. And so finally, I think it was like after, and I wanted to do, just as an access consciousness facilitator to keep my license up and stuff, you need about 2 to 3 weeks of travel time. And I was only getting 2 weeks of vacation time, and I had already used up like I already saw that gone just from, having to go to a couple trainings. And I was like, oh, I just started knowing this wasn't working. And I was like, oh. So eventually I told him, hey, like this just isn't working. It's not being in the office. It's just me and I want to travel. And you can't really work as a chiropractic office, at least starting out, and travel around and be gone. You have to be there for people. And so that's by I think June of 2013 is when I started really, working on my facilitation business and like being solo full time.
Mhm.
So
So
that
you
was
still doing
definitely.
chiropractic
Yep.
practice then?
I still use the tools much, like obviously when I told my parents that, like my mom was like, "But you went to school for this. You spent all this money for this. Like, how are you not going to use it?" And it was funny. I'm like, "I'm still using it. I'm still a doctor. I still got all the knowledge. And I still do, adjust people and see people, not in a, regular office fashion, but when I'm, and I keep my license in Ohio active. And so it's still there. I still use it. It's just, definitely not how you're supposed to, or is like the standard path, I would say.
So this may be an odd question, but what is it that you love about bodies? Because you really do so much. Um, chiropractic, SE, access tools, body processes.
Well, I think for me is just one, it's inspiring how easy the things can be and change in a way when you get out of the way of your body. It's, working on people and sensing them starting to go from, let's just say, like a disease, not necessarily diseases, but like, definitely having dis-ease with their body and it's not being easy and some things not working. And an overall sense, maybe physically not working or just there's something, usually there's when there's something physically not working, there's also, mental, emotional,
Right.
other things that are not working too. And it's so interesting when for me to sense that energy of when it shifts and to see how quickly the body can kind of start to recover and regenerate. And also for me, like in, exploring this and kind of the adventure of it. It's always interesting because we always want to go to it's a body thing, but so
Right.
often times it's actually our points of views about our body that is like the limiting factor. It's not really the body, which is,
Please say more about that, our limiting points of view.
well, one of the things, so I was. For me, it was always this exploration with my body because I was, in sports and I wrestled and I competed in college. And so for me, early on, it was always looking at how do I, perform at a peak level, get the best out of my body and, take care of it in a way. And there's obviously lots of points of views about how to do that. And then when I went in chiropractic school, it was more focused on, being well and staying well and if you're not well, how do you get well? And so I really was exploring all of that. And in chiropractic school, the funny thing was always, and even in Western medicine, we really researched the disease like forever, but we don't really look at the people that are ever well, which was always something that was strange to me.
That's interesting.
We
Wow.
spend millions upon millions of dollars and, researching these drugs to get people well, but not how, like, if we put in that much money to people actually staying well or the people that are well, it's just was always strange to me. And what always bugged me was you would have people that would be unwell and they would get well, but it didn't make sense. They called it like spontaneous healing, spontaneous remission, miracle, whatever. But they would have something that would change in their life. But we didn't like you would hear that like I would read the stories, but there was never any focus. They would be like, oh, they're an outlier. They don't make sense. Which was always like, and then my favorite was the placebo effect, right? It's
Yes.
like
Yes.
they do there's studies where they do like knee surgery. Like there's people that have bad knees, and then there's people that they'll get a surgery. They'll say they'll get a surgery, but really they just cut their knee and make it look like they got the surgery to repair their knee, but they didn't get the surgery. And then
Oh,
they compare
wow.
those to people that actually got the surgery.
Mhm.
And the people that thought they got the surgery have as good or as better outcomes most of the time as the
Wow.
people that got the surgery. So I was always, and this is what I loved about Access, because I heard, from Gary, point of view creates your reality.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So the people thought they were getting well. They had the point of view that this was fixed and it just got better. And, and, and for me, I think so much of everything with our body is, our point of view creates our reality and our
Yes.
point of view creates our body. And a lot of times our bodies are showing us the point of views we have that we don't even, realize or aren't cognitive of.
Right.
And and for me, it's always so interesting to kind of get clear on that and to see how all of a sudden my body starts changing um, without, having to really do anything, but just shift your point of view, shift your perspective.
Well, I know a lot of people come to you or newbies come to you and they go, Andrew, I have a pain in my side or my feet hurt or this or that. How do you approach that?
It really depends on the person. For me, I think that the easiest way to start to approach it is to talk with them a little bit or kind of get a general sense of how they see their body and how it is, you can communicate to because everyone's a little bit different, how they are with their body and kind of what they do. It's because for me, part of it, so much of it is education, which is really why I enjoy the access tools and everything, because we can start giving people information and education about how their body actually functions and create some kind of hopefully communion, but more than oftentimes it's just a better working relationship.
Well, I know a lot of people just see their body in this reality as kind of mechanical. You know,
Hmm.
you just fix it like you'd fix a robot or something like
Yeah.
that. So that's a huge shift.
And I mean, even and that's also another thing that I really like with the access consciousness tools is consciousness includes everything and judges nothing. So even if people's points of views, okay, my body's a robot. Well, how can we get your robot to perform the best possible? Not, no, 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 your body isn't a robot. Like, okay, your body's a robot. What else is possible? How do we get this robot, moving and being the best robot it can be, even
So
if
you
that's
gotta
not really true. But
you meet people where they are,
yeah.
which is very
And
empowering.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's like some people would like, especially with working on people, it's sometimes they just want to get out of pain. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that, but ex and sometimes it's very easy and sometimes it's not so easy. But again, sometimes people think it's not going to be easy, and guess what? It isn't easy.
Guess what? It's not easy.
I mean,
So
it was always
when
interesting when I was playing with the access tools and working on bodies. And one of the things I heard really early on from the founder of Access, Gary Douglas, is if you can change the energy of what's going on, you can change it. And so we have this wonderful, the access clearing statement that you use to change the energy. And when I was working on people starting out, I would go work on some people and I would just touch their body, do my chiropractic thing, but all I would do is everything doesn't allow this to change, pock and pot, use the clearing statement. All the energy creating this, pock and pot. And then for some people, it would really, really, really work and shift and change. And then for others, it wouldn't. And it was so interesting for me to work on it because I started realizing how much when I work on people, it's not really about me. It's about them and their body. And and it's, very humbling in a way because you really realize no matter how good you think you are, it's not about how good you are or anything. It's really about the person and what they have going on and what they need in their life and with their body.
that's huge because generally, like a chiropractor or doctor, you're there to cure them and all, fix them and all of that. But the awareness that you offer and then it's up to them, I think that's really enormous.
Well, I mean, it's a huge shift and it's still, I think it's something I still, as someone that works on bodies a lot and, thinks a healer, doctor, or whatever,
Yeah.
it's it's a huge thing to be present with, and I think to be that when you're with people and working on them and not forget it. Because sometimes even they come into you and they're like, fix me, help me, make it all better, and you're like, and sometimes I succeed and sometimes I don't.
Well, what is success for you?
Well, when we're working on bodies, when I'm working with bodies, it's really, and it's changed so much over the years, but now I really look at it as, am I delivering what the person's asking for, what they're willing to receive, what they're able to, able and capable of kind of having as a reality, and not over delivering and not under delivering. I think there's a sweet spot where, or especially with bodies, every body's different, and you can't kind of. It would be great if you could, if there was just one treatment protocol that could apply to everyone, but that is not, how it works. And I think for me, that's really when they talked about, the healing arts, and I think really healing is an art,
Mhm.
because it's definitely open to interpretation, and you have to see kind of how each body is so different and kind of what you can create with the colors you're given in a way, or the body you're given.
I love that. That's awesome. So you are in charge of the Access Consciousness Body Mob, which is
Yes.
a chosen, can't talk, for, it's a leadership position. Uh,
Hmm.
so tell me more about that, because uh, that takes working with bodies and working with others, working with bodies to a whole different level.
Yeah. So we call it's just it's the access. We don't really like to use team, but it's the people that are involved with coordinating and arranging all the kind of body stuff within access, which is usually just about the body processes. And if you guys don't know what body processes are, they're hands-on um, tools we use to asking an energy to run on the body to assist it in shifting and changing and maybe eliminating energies that are kind of stuck in it that aren't really contributing, and getting access to the energies that will. Um, and we call it the body mob because if you know what a group of kangaroos together is, it's called a mob. So
I
it's
did
very
not know that.
hoppy and punchy and kind of rowdy. And that's how I think of, bodies in a way, because they don't really go according to how you want to plan it out.
Right.
Um, but I think for me, it still goes back to the bodies. It's just a greater question of how the bodies would, what the bodies are aware of, and what can be created for all bodies, or all the bodies that are coming to the classes, and being aware of what those bodies need.
Mhm.
And I think that's, one of the other things that I really enjoy about bodies is there's no separation for your body. We just want to say it's my body, and my body's different from everybody's body, and there's no connection, but that's not really true. If your body is nature, and we try to kind of do all these things, but I don't, your body and the earth and your body and other bodies, there is a connection and a communication, and with the trees and everything else, they're aware of those things, and not maybe, in a cognitive way, but there is, an energetic presence that they're aware of. And so many times I work with so many people that are aware of that. It's funny, if there's an earthquake going on or something, there's lots of bodies that start being aware of it, or they get headaches, or all these other things. And so I think, as a leadership thing, part of it is dealing with people and their minds, and then what the bodies actually want. So it's like still the same thing as an individual session in a way, because I think that's still the negotiation you work with when people are coming in and their bodies are doing something they don't like.
Yes.
This is just kind of larger in that you also have to work on the people that are facilitating other bodies and getting them to kind of see the body's point of view too.
Wow, that's great. I know that you do all kinds of things, I mean, body processes and all, but you also have a specialty in SC. Can you say a
Mhm.
little bit about what that is?
Sure. So SE is created by another Access Conscious facilitator called Susie Godsey. And myself and her are the two facilitators of it within Access. And SE stands for Energetic Synthesis of Structural Embodiment. And obviously that makes it sound so much better. All these words together make
All
nothing.
these words.
Um, and really the SE class is about embodiment. And for a long time facilitating it, I thought embodiment meant you have a body, right? That's what embodiment means. And the more and more I facilitated it over the years, I started to realize that embodiment's actually not just having a body, but there's other things involved with it. And what do I mean? Well, to embody, to get a body, you, the being, are there. And then you also have this reality where you're embodied. So I really look at embodiment as three things: your body and what it's aware of, you and what you're aware of, and this reality. And
Wow.
and how those can all play together and work together. And um, really the energy of SE is what I see people get out of the classes is we can facilitate people having greater ease with their bodies, and greater ease with this reality, and how all of those can kind of work together to create something that works for you, rather than, oh, my body does, like, I really like SE because we can take people, and what are major things people don't think that work for them? It's either their body or something in this reality.
Yeah.
Everything is against them. And and the class is kind of a possibility for people to start seeing, oh, well, maybe my body isn't against me. Oh, maybe this reality isn't against me. Oh, maybe these things can actually work for me, rather,
Hmm.
and you can work with them to create something that you actually desire, and that's fun and ease, rather than having to, constantly hit walls
Mhm.
and try and scale them or knock them down or go around them.
It seems to be all a lot about ease and awareness and
Hmm.
question, and things are not always what they seem to be.
Definitely not. And I think, one of my, like, science talks about that the walls are actually more space than matter, right? And for me, when I think about bodies, well, if that's the walls, the bodies are still more space than matter too. And and so often we make these things very solid, but what if they weren't? Science says if you're willing to be the same energy, the same vibration as the walls, you could pass through them. Well, the same with all of our bodies, and all these things that we have stuck or that aren't working. If we're willing to be that energy, all of a sudden it can start to shift and change and open up a space for a new possibility.
Right. So if you had someone who came to you, or the general public or whatever, says, "Well, I just realized I kind of had a body. Now
Hmm.
what?" What would you what would you suggest to people who are really just starting this journey of really being aware that they have a body and that it might be conscious or connected or
Yeah. I think the easiest thing is to ask your body. It's funny, but I mean, and what do I mean when I say ask the body? Well, if your body has an awareness and of what it requires, what it desires, so ask it. Okay, body, what would you like to eat right now?
Mm,
Would you like to eat right now?
mhm,
And we have the light and the heavy tool and access, and there's muscle testing you can ask your body, and or you could just ask your body to show you.
mhm.
So oftentimes when I tell people, just ask your body to show you, okay, body, what would you like to eat? And if all of a sudden you're staring at something from across the room, maybe that's what your body would like to eat. Or I know when I go into a restaurant, it's like I ask my body, and there's one thing on the menu that just kind of pops instantaneously or something for me. Um, so I think the first thing, and I mean, this is the thing I constantly do, is ask the body. Okay, ask your body, oh, body, what would you like to eat? What would you like to wear? what movement exercise would you like? Start asking it as that kind of opens the door. The other thing is, if you have things going on with your body, are you asking them to change it? Like you have pain. Okay. Okay, body, what would it take to change this pain?
Mhm.
There's so many people that come to me, that are doing access classes, that are access facilitators, they know these things, and they come to me and they're like, okay, I'd like to change this. And I was like, okay, well, have you asked your body to change it? And they're like, yes. I was like, did you just ask right now? And they're like, yes. So I think asking, just the greatest starting point you can is to just start asking your body for the things. It's like I forget sometimes. It's like one time I was out with my wife, and there's wake surfing, which is, they pull you up on a behind a boat with a surfboard, and you have to get up on the boat and kind of surf the waves. Like they create a
Oh,
wake
okay.
to
I was
surf
like,
in.
what is he talking
Basically,
about?
you're getting up on behind a boat on a lake on a surfboard.
Mhm.
Um, and then the boat is generating a constant wave. And I was trying to get up, and I was failing, and I couldn't do it. And I was getting frustrated, and I was like stressing my body out trying to do it. And then, I was getting more frustrated because my wife started telling me what to do. And then the boat person was trying to help me out. And I was just, and then I just took a moment, and I was like, wait, I was like, okay, body, can you do this? Yes. Okay, do it. And then the next time I got up, and I was like, oh, that was so much easier. But
Yes.
it's funny, like I was trying to think about it for so long rather than just allowing my body to do what it needed to do. Um, and I think so often we do that in every area of our life with our bodies. We don't really just ask and, you know, see what shows up.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew. It was a great conversation. And is there a way for people to contact you if they want to book a session or find out more what you're doing?
Yes. So there's andrewgardella.com, and also accessconsciousness.com/Andrew Gardella. And you can find me on Instagram, just my name, Andrew Gardella.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming on today. That was
Thank you, Marilyn.
really interesting and very informative. Thank you so much for joining this episode of Left Turn. I wonder what embracing left turns could create in your life. What magical possibilities might show up? Remember, when you choose left turns, you are joining a group of the most creative and brilliant people the world has ever known.